Hello, everybody. You're very welcome to our online session for the International Dublin Writers Festival. We're very fortunate to have Judith Pence with us, who is an expert in the whole area of mind and body and authors, journaling and getting things right with our minds, making sure that we can manage our mental health. And part of our program this year is going to be about mental health. So Judith, you're very welcome. Perhaps you can tell our watchers and listeners a little bit about yourself before we start.
Sure. I'm an integrative holistic psychiatrist located in the United States. And I've had a journey of my own in terms of writing a book around it's actually a prescriptive memoir about my journey with Ayurveda and Panchakarma, which is a very deep cleanse that's possible. In addition, I've also written a very short workbook that's for 6 weeks for women and others who are struggling with finding ways to be resilient and strong despite the given challenges we all face each and every day.
Thank you for that. And so we have some questions. First of all, many writers struggle with guilt. And I know it's not just writers, but a lot of people struggle with guilt around resting. What do you suggest for this?
So rest is actually the secret magic for us, especially as we start to age with every decade. And the more we cheat on sleep, the less resilient we are the next day. And sleeping during certain times of the night is actually more productive in the sense that your body goes through its own rejuvenation to be more resilient the next day. The other thing is when we each are aging, each decade, our ability to rejuvenate and recover is decreased by getting enough sleep, especially between the hours, between the hours of 10 and 6. That really allows the body to go through the cleanse that the brain needs. And the brain actually goes through its own cleansing process. And they call it brain dirt, of all things. There's this whole process of cleansing where the lymph in the brain actually helps to take out the debris. But we need at least 3 to 4 cycles of deep sleep to get to that phase. And typically, starting at 10 to 11 at night, we allow the brain to rest enough so that this phase can happen.
Very good. I try and go to bed at 9, which is try to be asleep by 9:30. And I know a pattern is important as well. So you emphasize daily rituals in your work. Why is that?
So as I shared earlier, our ability to detox is something that's built in our body. The challenge is, as we age, those processes aren't as efficient. And by doing some of these daily rituals that I mentioned in my workbook, it allows for the body to rejuvenate more effectively and more easily. And the value in these daily rituals is there's a cumulative effect of cleansing the body and nurturing it, as well as the mind in terms of rest and self-care.
That's excellent. Thank you for that. One of the things that really intrigues me is the whole idea of improving mental clarity. How do you see that issue of mental clarity, and how can we work on improving that?
So one of the challenges that we all face is having too much to do and not resting enough. And from that quality of rest and literally doing nothing, be it taking a walk, connecting in nature, sitting with your dog and petting the dog, doing something where there's no activity required of the brain per se, other than maybe the movement with the walk, the stroking of the dog, it really allows the brain to wander. The brain actually needs the opportunity to wander. The mind needs that opportunity for us to be more creative. And I think about, I think Michael Crichton speaks to this to some degree. As an author, he has a very tight schedule where he's, I'm going to say writing for X amount of hours. And there's several authors that I've read their routines. And the other, others will actually then take off and go for a walk. And it's in that meandering that the writing that has been done has a chance to cook and to ponder, and has an ability to be more creative for the next time one sits to write down, to write their, whatever their context they're writing in. So that there needs to be activity, but there also needs to be rest. And in that, there's mental clarity that can come forth in doing that.
Excellent. Yes. Okay. I have to write that down, put it in on my computer screen, remind myself to rest. You talk also about breath work, and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the beauty of breath work is that our breath is something that is very available and is free. And we do have very good research showing that practicing breath work, even if it's box breathing, which is very easy and one can look up on YouTube and practice, it's a matter of counting to a count of 4 to start with. And you breathe in to a count of 4, you hold to a count of 4, you breathe out to a count of 4, and then you hold your breath again to a count of 4. And you kind of just follow a box in your mind in terms of making that breath work. What happens is that you're then activating the right brain and the left brain. And we have what we call the activating side of our brain, sympathetic, and then the quieting part of the brain, the parasympathetic. The breath work, and there's different forms of breath work. There's one called alternate nostril breathing that we don't have time to go into today. And again, there's many YouTube opportunities to look that up. That helps to activate the right and left brain. It helps to create balance between the two hemispheres. And it actually helps to promote clarity. For example, there's one called Bastrika, which is a very sharp inhale and then a let going of the breath. If you really need mental clarity, we were talking about mental clarity with the previous question, it actually can help wake up your whole body chemistry in your brain so that you can be more alert and much more effective than the cup of coffee that we often reach for.
Very good. Very interesting. I think we need your journal to hand at all times to guide us through this. And, and you must mention your journal at the end of this. Okay, so
Sure.
you also talk about boundaries. Can you explain that a little bit?
So I'm still, my life is a work in process. All of ours are. And what I'm finding is the more I practice boundaries that help me stay grounded and present and happier given the circumstances, then I'm more effective and more available to those that I'm serving and those who I'm spending time with. And an example of that would be, I'll just do a really basic one. What time is when you stop working? Do you let your work aside or do you forever go back to it? And I know many of us had to learn this during COVID because we all worked from home or did something, if we weren't fortunate enough to work from home, you still had to leave the workday behind in some way. And so that's one example is being able to be present with family or whomever and not let work be, muttering and, behind you. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is your own thoughts, setting boundaries around negative thoughts. And this is the value where breath work can help change that pattern, but also coming from a place of wholeness and joy. That's something I haven't mentioned yet, but looking for ways to have experiences of joy, things that warm your heart, and practicing gratitude helps you also to create boundaries because you may walk away from instances where you're not feeling so happy. It's really important to do check-ins with yourself in a given day. Why am I so miserable today? Or why am I feeling so great today? And what presented, why am I feeling better in this moment? Because that self-awareness helps you to understand, maybe I don't want to do that again because it didn't feel very good. So boundaries is about how to create a sense of okayness with who you are and saying no to that doesn't fulfill you or create joy or gratitude in your heart.
Very good. I think the issues, of course, come up often about commitments and things we are bound to, which make it difficult to set boundaries sometimes with those. But I think it's really important what you're saying about working on our boundaries and ensuring at least that we have some boundaries around what we're committing to and what's taking up our mental space. So that's really important. You also speak about writers have a natural creative rhythm. How do you see that?
So an example that I'll give is, and this can change with time too, exercise, for example. And I'll use my own personal, I used to be able to exercise in the morning and it wasn't a big deal, but I'm finding as time has gone on that I do better either midday or late afternoon. And when I've done that, I actually have more creativity as a result because I am releasing a lot of stress, anxiety, whatever, through the power of exercise. And for me these days, it's either walking my dog or it's yoga. But whatever that is, some sort of movement really can enhance one's creativity in a way that's supportive for them. Obviously, if one is bound because of disability or whatever, finding something that is of a movement process that gives you some release of stress in the body, that can be really important. And then finding out what part of the day your mind is more creative. And that's exploring, because from there are many disciplines, excuse me, many, both Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, which is an East Indian medicine, talk about the 24-hour cycle and dividing it in different ways. And each of us have proclivity towards a certain time of day that might be better in terms of using one's creative skills. And that takes some exploration and dedicating some time to say, am I better of a writer between 10 and 2, or 2 and 6, for example. I know for me, it varies, but it typically is more in the daytime into the evening as opposed to morning time.
Do you also see longer creative rhythms associated with the year, for instance?
Yes, I mean, we can talk about the cycles of the sun in that respect, sometimes because of the more introspective time in the wintertime or time when it's darker, whatever climate you're in, there can be a tendency of wanting to write more because there's more of an inward journey. But that varies with every person in that regard. So
that's very good. Thank you for that. And can you recommend, as we come near the end of this talk, what one small daily habit do you recommend for us all?
So it would be actually a combination of breath work and some contemplation and meditation, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, because it helps to reset yourself, whether you start the morning that way or you end your afternoon or evening that way or before bedtime. It helps to create closure or it helps to open up the day for you. So those would be something I would recommend. And if meditation is not in your, when people hear meditation, they think sitting still. You can do a moving meditation. There's a great Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who has a great moving meditation video that's very helpful. So and if you're familiar with mindfulness, mindfulness also talks about being present and connecting with your senses. And in doing that, you're much more aware and much more present with whatever task at hand or whomever you're with. So practicing being present is probably that one small habit that I might focus on.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Judith. I know that everyone will really appreciate that, your guidance and assistance in helping us achieve a little bit more clarity and peace and support for our mission as writers. And please tell us about your journal and your book and the title. We can find it.
Sure. Well, I'll mention the book first. The book is called Cleanse Your Body, Reveal Your Soul. And it's a book that speaks to me, but it's sharing my story of the power of Ayurveda and the cleanse called Panchakarma. What I do is I break down the process of the 7 days that are the sequence of the actual cleanse and what happens each day. I happen to have been in India in terms of the writing of this story. So I speak about, what India has to offer, but you can get this cleanse happening here in the States and in Europe as well. So, but Ayurveda in and of itself is something that has such beauty and power in terms of prevention. And the sooner we start that, the quality of our life and the risk of gathering some of the different chronic illnesses that many people are struggling with these days are actually reduced with the power of the personalized medicine that Ayurveda has to offer. The second journal, actually the second thing I created here just at the end of 2025 was this book. It's called 6-Week Integrative Self-Care Journal for women, but it really is for all individuals who want to work on habit building. And this helps you then to improve your sense of well-being, a sense of clarity, and a sense of being present every day because of the different habits I include. We mentioned some of them today. We didn't talk about some of the Ayurvedic tools, such as tongue scraping. That alone, when I was thinking of that could be a wonderful daily habit, allows for your mouth to be more healthy in terms of the germ activity. Dentists are actually finding out that the better quality the mouth is in terms of the gums and the tongue, it's an overall indicator of one's overall health and well-being. And tongue scraping actually helps to remove the debris that's built up from the detoxification that our body and brain goes through every night. So it's a great little book. It's simple, it's easy, and you can hit it on repeat in terms of, I've done it for 6 weeks. I maybe, was able to do the tongue scraping that time, but if you start doing it, you can maybe add some of the other tools that are in the kit to improve the quality of your detoxing on a day-to-day basis.
That's wonderful. Really good advice. Thank you very much for that. And thank you everybody for watching this session.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to share about my love of Ayurveda